All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Carvel Community Meeting. It's the first meeting of the new year, 2024. Today's date is January 10th. For those of you who are watching this recording from home, we meet every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 8 a.m. Pacific time. It's a good opportunity for you to come and meet the maintainers, meet other contributors, members of the community, listen in to what folks are working on, ask questions, request features, all sorts of things. You're also welcome just to hang out and listen in and linger. You don't need to participate if you're uncomfortable in that way. We welcome anyone and everyone to come join our meetings. Those that are on the call today and you have something you do want to bring up, just a reminder to put that down in the discussion topic section here at the bottom of the agenda, and we will discuss it as a group, see if we can figure some stuff out together. If you're unable to join us for these meetings and still need to get in contact with us, there are several ways to find us. You can get us in the Carvel channel in the Kubernetes Slack workspace. You can email us. You can find us within GitHub and any of our project repos by, posting issues, asking questions. And then we have ourselves on Twitter at Carvel_dev. If at any point you're interacting with us or other members of the community, just a reminder to please read and abide by our code of conduct, which is linked here and throughout all of our repos. Moving on to the agenda, I mentioned this in every meeting, but I'm going to continue doing it. So if you're watching this and you have something you wish to share on how you're using the Carvel tools, we've created this pinned issue, and you can drop some information in there for us in a comment form. And it's just letting us know your use case scenario of how you're using any of the Carvel tools. It's a way for the maintainers to understand how folks are using the tools, and members of the community who might just be getting started with Carvel, and they can see for themselves how others are using it and then in turn use it in a similar way. So we would really appreciate y'all adding a comment here, and optionally adding a image of your logo, and we would get it added to the adopters file so that folks can see who all is using the Carvel tools. And if you're attending this meeting today, just make sure to put your name and any organization you're representing into the attendees list here. We like to keep track of how many folks are joining the meetings and who all is joining it, just to keep those relationships going. No announcements right now. I did complete what we call a health check last week. I'll be going over that with the leadership team, and then I'll mention some stuff to the community at large, what we've noticed throughout our repos and what we want to work on, so we can keep it transparent on and highlighting the things that, as far as like when I say health, it's like our time for acknowledging PRs and things like that. So stay tuned for that. Maybe in the next community meeting, I'll be able to bring that up. Okay, moving on to status updates and what's been being worked on. So project roadmap, I don't know if there's anyone available to go over the updated roadmap. I know Renew's still away. Okay. I know that she updated that this morning, so if she comes back, we can have time, we can go back to it. Okay, we're looking at all the backlog stuff. Who wants to get started with talking about all tools signing release artifacts?
I can talk about that. I read it. So we are actually working on signing our release artifacts, that is the binaries and the container images. It's from the proposal that Thomas had created. So we are doing it on all the tools. I think we do have like a discussion topic, so add it for it. We can discuss more around it later on, mostly around what to put in the release notes about whether we are signing or how we can verify that the artifacts are signed.
Okay, sounds good. Moving on to kapp. Who's able to talk about that?
Yeah, I can do that. So first one is memory optimization. This one is basically so we are trying to like reduce the memory footprint that kapp has on the system. Like there are a couple of things that we are trying to do here. One is trying to change the major highlight over here is trying to change the diffing algorithm. It does provide the output in a little different manner, like since it's a different algorithm, but mostly it's the functionality does not change for kapp. So, but it does reduce the memory like around 40 to 50%, as can be seen from the table. So this is something that's under review right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I can talk about the next one as well. So basically, right now when we try to deploy some resources using kapp, for example, let's say horizontal power autoscaler, if it's like, let's say the version for it is v1 beta 2, or like let's say version 2 that we are trying to deploy, what kapp does as of now is it tries to list all the group kinds for a resource that we have. So it basically lists all versions of horizontal power autoscalers. And if there is even a deprecated version, for example, v1 beta 2, it will try to list that as well, which causes issues in uh, auto upgrading clusters, for example, in GK. So this is what we are trying to resolve now. We are trying to resolve like switch to GVK scoping instead of just group kind, because the reason we have just group kind is because like there could be some upgrade scenarios wherein when someone is trying to like upgrade from V2 beta 2 to V2. So that's the edge case that we need to solve for.
Thanks, Praveen. Any questions or comments on kapp items? Okay, moving on to image package. Who can talk about this?
Yeah, I can say about this. The first one, the describe command should provide information about the edge layer. So as of now, when we, so okay, without these changes, as of now, the layers, if you'll see in the description what Joe has added, when we do the describe to any image, the layers is not shown as of now, but with the changes, these information will be shown after this change get merged. So yeah, as of now, we are just showing this digest of the each layers of this image contents. You can see you can go to the PR actually. Can you go down? PR is not added here. Yeah, this one. So this is how the new output will look when we do the image package describe to a bundle or any image. A second one I have not looked into much, but Praveen, I think you are looking into it. So can you just explain this one?
Actually, it's Joe who's working on this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I can talk
um,
about it, Praveen. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So basically, there's like a so when you're pulling the image from the registry into the to disk, there are like two ways you can do this. Right? You go layer by layer and extract every layer, and if you do it like from the top to the bottom, you'd be like if one layer underneath it change a file, you write the same file twice, right? Like you write the first, like the layers work like versions in some sense, so they overlap on each other. So if you put a file in one layer, the next layer puts the same file but a little bit different, then you have like two copies. Like you write twice the file to disk. So this is one of the things that is happening in image package still right now. And another issue that happened that we see is that some like if you use an operating system on that image, sometimes the devices are copied into the image. So in a device is basically just something from the operating system that's really not something that we can replicate somewhere else. So what happens with image package? That image package was not taking that into consideration. So those are like two issues that are that we are looking into in this particular bug. So in order to do this, in order to fix this, like I created a PR. The PR needs a little bit more testing just to make sure like everything is okay. But what this is doing is we're doing now the reverse. Now we're gonna, instead of going the layers from top to bottom, we're going bottom to top, so that we don't need to write files that are already written, or we don't have to delete folders that were deleted in later layers, right? Like so that's like a little optimization there that we're doing, and that also fixes one of the issues here is that, like, for example, if you create in two layers and the first layer creates a folder and the second layer adds a file to that folder, if there are no permissions to write onto that folder, there's an error that happens, right? So like, but if we do it reverse order, if you go from the bottom to the top, we write first the file before we create, not before we create the folder, but before we schmod the folder, right? So that's what we're doing here. And also we are adding the little part that ignores the devices. So that's basically what this story is about. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Joao. Any questions or comments on these two items that are being worked on in image package? Okay. Moving on to K-control. Who can talk about that?
I can shed some light on that. So the first one is actually an issue that's been around for a while, and we have a PR for it. And Usman ran into it again recently, and we were hoping to sort of resolve that across these 2 weeks. It's a very specific case that folks run into while releasing packages, where they don't want K-control to generate a log file on the fly. And So yeah, so we are hoping to work with Usman and resolve it over the next 2 weeks. And the next one is something that's been going on for a bit. We do consume bits of K-control downstream, and we're making some changes to make that more possible in general. So yeah, that's what that's about.
Great, thanks, Samak. Any questions or comments on these two items? Okay, we got vendor here. We've been reviewing and working with German and Fritz to get some of their work in.
Yeah. We also have these as discussion topics. So I don't know whether you want some detail on this now, or whether we cover that once we discuss these things in detail.
I guess we can just wait till we get to the discussion topics and we can go into detail with that.
Mhm.
Thank you. And then we got documentation content, more comparatives as suggested by Adib in a few issues, focus on the why along with the how, blogs or docs. Who put this in here?
I put that in, and so Adib is an engineer in our organization. He's more of a field engineer, and he had some feedback about how a documentation is structured. So some of his feedback might involve documentation changes, whereas some might be something we could publish as content, as blogs or something of that sort. So I was hoping to make the doc changes and maybe put something in the content calendar because it's been a while. So I thought I'd put that in the.
Okay. Yeah, and is any of it related to what Abby did a few weeks ago or a couple of months ago?
It's a bit different in the sense that Adib's main concern was that the docs are great for someone who's already decided what to do, whereas it doesn't provide a lot of help to someone who's trying to figure out the right way forward. Like, why should I use SOPs? How does it help me? In which cases does it help me with kapp-controller, or should I consider using an image package bundle? Now that docs are there in the image package part of the documentation, but if you're just looking at kapp-controller docs, it's not very obvious.
Yeah.
So that's essentially the feedback he had.
Mm-hmm.
He had a few more specific points, but that's the general tone.
Yeah, I would agree. Like the tone of our docs seems more like there's like that missing component of like, it's like you already assume the person knows or is there for a certain reason. It's missing like that first step of the other type of people that are just kind of coming across it and like, why would I use it for this? So yeah, that'd be great. Any other comments on that before we move on to discussion topics? Okay. All right. We have a YTT issue that wants to be discussed.
Yeah. So this issue is about like a parsing issue in YTT. Okay, so the user is putting a very big hex string and Go is actually removing the quotes from that string, and like then the author is complaining that when they like use it in further of the step, this string, this big hex number will be considered as a hex number instead of string, and that will cause issue. They expect the quotes to be still there. So Varsha had worked on it earlier, and like the issue is in Go YAML, there is it will try to pass this as a number, and if it is fitting within that 64-bit integer, it will put the quotes. If it is not fitting, it will remove the quotes. So, and like there is issue in the Go YAML, and we have to fix in that. And if you go to the end, there are already 2 open issues on the Go YAML, which people have raised, and it seems that library is not maintained anymore because I don't see any PRs going in since last 2 years. So my question is, can we update, like, can we try to fix it in the vendor YAML which we have? Is that a okay approach to take? Have we done like such fixes in the past?
Are there PRs
No
for these
PRs.
fixes on YAML v3?
I didn't see any PR in the GitHub, but I saw some Stack Overflow links where they are proposed some possible fixes. We'll have to try that. I did not get time to try that, but it seems we can do that.
Andy has his hand raised.
Thanks. I would discourage trying to modify the vendor code. I think as Samak wrote in chat, the Kate6 YAML project is worth investigating as an alternative. I don't know if it fixes this problem, but I would not do the vendor change because then anybody who vendors YTT won't accumulate that change as well.
Yeah, okay. So we were trying to use this SIG, create a SIG YAML, and like, does it fit well with our, okay, I have not seen this thing. Okay.
Bit of context on that. So this came up when we are trying to emit comments using YTT.
Okay. Yeah.
And there were similar issues with like hex strings previously as well. So our main concerns were, firstly, we didn't want any breaking changes. And the goal of this project is to allow folks to bump to YAML v3 with no breaking changes. Like they literally have a test case, which is like runs it through this fork and YAML v2 and it's the same. However, what we were worried about is we might have previously made some changes to the vendor YAML v2 to sort of shape things in our favor. And we need to make sure that all of it's also present here or contributed upstream here so that we can continue doing the same things. So it's something that'll require some in-depth digging.
Yeah. Okay. And whatever vendor YAML changes we have, they would be in the PR, I guess, right?
Should be. I haven't tried to look them up, but yeah, they should be somewhere else.
I think I can do a diff and see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me check more in this thing. Yeah. Let me take this notes also.
If we are going to look into Kubernetes SIG, let's not look into the v2 folder they have. Let's just use the v3.
Yeah.
Because we did vendor the YAML v2 inside YTT. There's like a folder there that contains the code and contains the changes, of course, that we did there. So yeah, if for some reason that doesn't work,
okay,
if this is like a very big issue, we could follow the same path. That's basically just vendor it. So basically copy the YAML v3 code, put into our code, do whatever changes we want into the thing. Never change the vendor folder. There was like this one time in it, like just as an anecdotally, we had a change in a vendor folder for image package for like a year that was causing us problems every time that somebody was doing anything. They're like, we had to add checks on it to make sure that people were not like override things and so on. It's like it was a nightmare. Never change the vendor folder.
Okay, so I want to just repeat. So we will fork the project and change it and point it to.
Let's look. So what I was saying is, let's look at Kate's SIG YAML.
Yeah, first we'll do that. Yeah, okay.
But just a v3. Do not ignore v2. It's like v2 folder doesn't exist. Okay, just for the v3.
Yeah.
See if it works, and if it doesn't work, let's try to create a fix for it, and try to create a fix on the Kate SIG. And send a PR there.
Okay.
If they accept the PR, then we'll use their code. If they don't accept the PR, we'll vendor YAML v3 and do the change inside our code. Does that sound good as like steps?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Cool. Okay. All set there?
Yes.
Great. All right, Tanushree.
Yeah, hi, Nancy. Yeah, so actually this issue is raised by Frist, and there is a PR he has added. So we would like what is the issue is like when we are having a overlap directory and asking vendor to manage that, then vendor is just taking the precedence of the last one. So if we have defining, if you'll go back to the issue, okay, yeah, there is a YAML input like he has given. You can go up. Description, just description. Yeah, so if here you will see there is a directory called vendor, and it's like it's overlapping. So what the final output will have, the vendor will have only the directory 2 output. So the directory 1 output will get deleted. That is what vendor is doing. So Fritz is proposing is to allow these kind of configuration, while what I'm saying is like we should not allow, and even vendor is designed to such that we should just for managing each directory we should have only one directive inside one directive. So there could be a problem, and like if we have, for example, in vendor directory we are trying to pull two different uh, files, or maybe we can say it's like two different repository, for example image package and vendor repository we are trying to pull. So then trying asking it to manage both the file system in a same directory called vendor. So that is what Fritz is supposed Fritz is asking to allow this, while vendor is not designed to do that. So that is what we want to have a discussion, what this season, like what design we should be allowing in vendor as of now.
Yeah, if I may add to that, I basically created the implementation that would pull just because I was in the logic and felt it's easy enough to allow for that. But I just think something should happen. The current implementation seems misleading to the user. So for me, it would also be totally fine if there was an overlap warning, just like you would have an overlap warning if you have an overlap within a single directory. That's also fine. We don't have we don't have this requirement in particular that this should be supported. Just the current behavior seems misleading to the user.
Yeah, correct. Fritz, actually, when I was going through the vendor and I was trying out, when I got confused with this, and I had the same question, because if we are not throwing any error or warning, user can give such configuration, do the configuration and give to the vendor. So that is what I was also suggesting, to have a warning instead of asking vendor to allow this kind of configuration. Yeah. Yes, Chairman.
Yeah, so actually I also have a little bit to add to that. I also bumped into the issue, but I decided to provide another pull request with a different solution. So there I just make it fail, like that Vendir does not allow having overlapping paths. Doesn't matter if they are the same or if they just overlap in some cases, because otherwise you have really undefined behavior. So you don't know what will happen in the end, the output. And I mean, I'm using Vendir for like several years, and I was always thinking that it's disallowed to have overlapping paths. And it is partially implemented in the code, but it's not covering all the cases. And also because there are no normalization of paths. So for example, if you have double slash in a path and the same path, but with a single slash, which are essentially the same paths, Vendir will not notice this and will work with them as with different paths. So for this, I proposed another pull request, which fixes this. So I think we should discuss this kind of in a broader context. So what I would do, yeah, if I were to decide, yeah, so I would do a path normalization. so that we do not fall into a trap of the same path in different forms. Yeah, this also actually fixes a bug in lazy syncing, because if you add additional slash in the end, lazy syncing mechanism thinks that it's another source and it just downloads it again. Not a big deal, but also not perfect in my opinion. So yeah, that's what I would do, normalization and disallow overlapping paths, because why would you need them to be? Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Like I don't. The main issue with having like multiple path, having the same path in multiple places, is that then like if we have the same file being downloaded by from two sources, like which one should we use, right? Then vendor becomes like it becomes a little bit more complicated, right? And in the world, like if we one day decide like that we want to make this like more parallel, right? Like what happens? Like how are going to keep like diffs around, right? So I think the easiest way, like, and since Fritz doesn't look like you have like any kind of like very specific use case for this, I think like the best path forward is just to disallow it. I do agree with the normalization, and piggybacking on that, one conversation that we had in chat like some time back, I don't remember when it was, like we should not allow users to get out of root path, get out of like the current path for where the vendor file is. So I think that that's something that we should also add as a behavior, because if you do like dot slash, I think you can go back and just get out get out of vendor and just start writing in other places, right? Like we should make sure that that doesn't happen. So I think like I do agree. I think that would be like the best option for us. Just give it a warning or even an error if like I don't have like a big but like I think like I would prefer to give an error just for the simple reason of like if we just give a warning, are we going which warning are we going to give? Are we going to give for like the first folder or the second folder? Are we keep on going to download the other folder that did not get the warning? I feel like that this should be more like an error saying like the configuration is incorrect because you're like providing the same path twice. So I think like personally that would be like the UX that I would prefer to have here. So that normalize the paths, just make sure that there's no like that when we are inside the Go code, we know that that path is the path, right? Like, and there's no like dot slashes or dot slashes or something like that around, and make sure that we cannot get out of root of the current folder. So those are like the three things that I think we should go with for like this topic that we're discussing.
Yeah, just to kind of for the current status, for the first two things, there are pull requests. Yeah, I think I got some reviews, just double check if everything is fine. For the last point about escaping the current directory, there is no pull request. I just wanted to discuss and see the vision. And one question to that, what would be the root folder? Because in the documentation of Vendir, I think it says that whatever path is relative to a Vendir configuration, but not to the Vendir process. Yeah, so current working directory. So to me, it just like
I think it is the vendor file,
No wonder.
the sync file.
And if we pipe it from standard input, then it would be current working directory. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will then probably yeah, because I'm still was digging into this code recently, I will check it out and propose another one for not escaping. So yeah. And I think we'll need to create an issue for that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All set here for the vendor topic. Any other questions or comments? All right, moving on. I believe we just went over that, absolute pass and vendor configuration.
Yep.
So then we have thoughts on more verbose release notes, some information about installing and verifying specific versions.
This is in line with the release, signing off release artifacts that we are working on right now. So, question that we have right now is how much information should be put in the release notes related to this? Like, do we have a really verbose release notes which has like installation steps and verifying checksum file signature, everything? Or do we just indicate it via one line and point to a readme which shows the steps to do this part? Or we do nothing, we just sign the artifacts and carry on with the release notes like we are doing right now?
I think the more information you have in release notes, the better. That's my feelings always. But I'd like to hear from others.
I'm inclined towards that as well.
I was the only one inclined the other way, I think. That was mainly because I thought a lot of the stuff was repetitive. So we thought we'd ask folks if it's useful, right?
Yeah, I'm with you, Somik. So the installation instructions are common to all the releases. So maybe we can only post the unique content here, and something which is common for all the releases, we can move it to kapp-controller or each tool's documentation, where we keep the installation instructions, and we can only post the image with hashes here. That's what I feel in the release notes. Because
Sorry, go for it.
Yeah. Just maybe a little bit a side note. Why did you consider using something like conventional commit messages, so that you then automatically have kind of grouped lists of changes, and then it's quite easy to review when we do an update? Like you can you can check. Well, many projects are doing this. We in Mike's, we do this. Not really important, but we just try to follow it. And then when we have a release, then you have like a block of features. If there are breaking changes, you have caps lock breaking changes, and then you can read what you need to do to upgrade. Then usually small fixes and adjustments, they are not really important, and you can just skip them.
it is the change log you're talking about, right?
Yeah, but it's implemented via, it's built automatically from commit messages. And commit messages, they carry information about type of the change. So for example, if it's fix or feature, that's more important to you when it's just dependency update or just a little bit of refactoring, which is not changing anything for a user.
Yeah, so we are already in the existing releases itself, we are posting change log, but we have recently started working on signing the release artifacts. So if we take kapp-controller kapp-controller, we will have k-control binary as well as kapp-controller package bundle image and kapp-controller image as well. So for this, we have a verification instructions as well as installation instructions. So when we check this SOPs release notes here, we have this verification changes from release to release. Only the image path changes. It is like the image name with the image SHA. So the question right now is, should we post the verification instructions here in the release notes? Do we need to add this here, or we will just post only the image with SHA here, and then since the verification and release instructions are common to all the releases, we'll move it to the documentation. That is the question. Yeah. But right now we are already posting the change logs.
Yeah, I got it. As I said, it was a side question, and yeah, you post the change log, but I just was suggesting how it can be a little bit
yeah.
better. Yeah.
Sure,
And
sure.
about the actual question whether to put it like instructions in the release notes or not, my
Yeah.
personal opinion, I mean, it's up to you to decide, but my personal opinion, like if it's just a link to a documentation, that's fine. Yeah, a couple of lines, that's fine. And I noticed that, for example, Vendir or YTT usually have a small release messages because, yeah, not many changes are there. Yeah, but I mean, copy pasting all the time, this full instruction looks a little bit too much, from my opinion.
Yeah, we can automate this as well, but what we feel, I mean, I and Soumik are feeling is it's like a one pager for each release. If we add all these content here, yeah, it's like,
So just my one thought on that, which is you can do collapsible sections that are collapsed by default using just a few HTML tags, and then you could have like installation instructions in there. So when someone's just looking at the release notes, they'll see the 10 lines, 15 lines, whatever without it, but they'll see installation, checksum verification. So it's not just taking up the entire screen, right? It's very easy. It's short and concise. But if they want to expand it out, they do get the installation there, because it is a good experience to be able to install directly from the release notes, not need to be popped out to another website, go over here where it's you then need to set an environment variable with the version name and then pull it down to get the right version that you're looking for, whatever. It's nice to have it directly in the release notes, I think, but collapsing it with, it's like 3 little HTML tags that you add into the markdown could maybe solve that issue.
yeah, sure, Scott. That's a good idea, actually.
I think in the end, this sums up to the how do we want our users to consume our tools, right? I think that's like the crux of it. If we want our users to consume our tools directly from GitHub and just go there and so on, then it makes sense to have installation and verification on the release notes, right? On the release, because like a person goes there, clicks on the release and goes there. If our objective is to have people consume our tools via like the website, right? Like via the website, then it makes more sense to just have like what changed, right? Like personally, I don't like the verbosity of like having always the same thing there. I don't like it. But in the end, I think like the Scott's idea, it's like a good compromise for this. And I think that like in reality, a lot of folks consume like 1 tool or 2 tools or 3 tools from Carvel, right? Which means that they are not going to the website to just download using like our exceptional bash script that installs everything for you. They just go and just update their binaries, right? Or they just brew and they just install it or something like that, right? So I do believe that like having like a collapsible section that would be good, that contains like the most important information, like how to install, how to validate. Because like till today, we did provide the SHA, the checksums of the files, but we never told people like, how do you check it, right? Like there's just like, hey, there's a list, these are the files and these are the checksums that we created, right? So like, if you know, you know, if you don't know, you don't know. It's like, it's just numbers and letters, right? So yeah, like we can let's try that. Let's see, since like the majority of like the release process is just like automated, and like the creation of the release notes, it's practically automated, and we can just have that text there. Let's try that out and see what happens. And if people we start getting like very bad comments on all over the internet saying that our release notes are the worst release notes in the world, we can see it, right? Or we can just blame whoever is saying bad things about us in X or whatever, which other platform they're using.
Sure, Joe.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan of action, and we have 9 minutes left to go over updates from the OLM team. Andy and Varsha, you want to take it away?
Yeah, so I mentioned in Slack, we largely been out for the holidays, so there hasn't been much on our end. I think we're just re-raising a couple of issues that we had filed as feature requests to consider. The one that you've got on screen now, which I think probably needs some discussion, assuming we do collectively agree to proceed with it. Largely what we're looking for is a way for a user to know as soon as possible that something that, in our case, OLM, but or kapp-controller deployed is no longer healthy. And in Varsha's description, I think she says about tracking the status of individual resources. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be individual, but if it's proactively watching deployments and other runnable things, and as soon as something goes down, the status gets updated on the app CR. That's the sort of thing that we're probably looking for this one. I realize we don't have a lot of time, so I don't think we can really discuss much here. And then the other one is around doing subject access reviews on all of the actions that CAP would take before actually doing an install or an upgrade, just to make sure that it doesn't get halfway or partway through the operation only to discover that the service account is missing one permission on one resource. And then I think the last thing, which I didn't put in the meeting minutes, is around if we still think that there needs to be some redesign of the extensibility of kapp-controller to accommodate certain things, or if it can largely stay as is. And just as a reminder, we're interested in getting to beta and eventually 1.0 on the APIs and Semver sooner rather than later, but also don't want to force things unnecessarily quickly. So I would say this is probably food for thought for maybe the next meeting or async on Slack, just because I think we need more time than a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Does anyone have any immediate thoughts that they want to share? Samak, I saw you go unmute and then back to mute. I'm not sure if you had something.
Yeah, no, I was thinking I'll just start the Slack thread, but I think the second one probably belongs to the CAP repository, like the CLI, in the sense like I think it's not a huge ask to do like a subject access review for the GVKs we have, optionally depending on a flag, right? And that can be fed into kapp-controller.
Yeah,
So I think
there's an issue in both repos. Because you got to do cap before you can do kapp-controller, but it needs to be in both, at least for us.
Yeah. I think that's pretty achievable. Whereas the first one, right? I think we do something to ensure that all resources are in the state that we want it to be. So I dropped an example of that. But if you want to surface like specific information from the statuses of resources, like I guess my question would be, are we talking about like certain resources all the time or specific resources for each packages? Like, yeah, that's what I was thinking along, but I think that's a longer discussion. So
Yeah, so it's in short, kind of two things potentially. One would be for a set of known things like deployments, stateful sets, jobs, etc., having logic that can detect for those. And then a second thing would be just configurable by the user, health probes or whatever you want to call them, where you tell it some sort of path expression and something to evaluate, and that determines if it's healthy or not.
Varsha has her hand raised.
Varsha, did you have something you wanted to share? If you're speaking, you're on, you're not able to unmute. Let me see if I can help. Huh. Just trying to see if I could unmute you. No, we can't hear. Okay, yeah, we'll take it up on Slack. Okay, yeah, we have 3 minutes left, so we can go ahead and just move these discussions to Slack and async there. Thank you all for bringing some pretty robust discussions to our first meeting of 2024. I think it really sets us all up for just, I guess, going into the new year with some good support and feelings about overall the project. And, you know, it's exciting that we have all these different folks working together collectively on this project. So thank you all for all your help and your efforts here and for attending. And, you know, it's really good to see. It's just what open source is all about. So thank you. And with that, if you're watching this from home, just a reminder to come join us live. We meet every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 8 a.m. Pacific time. We hope to see you soon. So thank you all and have a good rest of your day or evening.